She's all worried, you know. Today, in fact, I didn't answer like her calls last night because I was in my office, back office, working at home, and I had my ringer off. I looked and I said, "Okay, I'll call you in a little while." And she's like, "Are you okay?" Yes. I am, but I never look at it.
They're going to miss her there.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
When they don't get you work done.
I'm going to miss her there. She's so efficient.
I think it's probably. Whatever.
That had a nice ring. The worst part is
I am. Plus that for him, raised $5,000 for
Yeah,
him.
there you go. Right.
Like that. Yeah. It's good enough.
Yep. Sorry, I'm a little late. All right. Mr. Giovanni, lead us in the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Ms. Zumbo, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Kuzic.
Present.
Mrs. Ferraro.
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni.
Here.
Mr. Heckman.
Here.
Mr. Lott.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
In all my glory.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Here.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes, here.
All present with Mrs. Ferraro by phone.
Okay, thank you. And Peg, if there's something, if I don't refer to you and you know to yell out if you want to be recognized. But I do want to say this, Peg, and this isn't just for you. As we go forward this year and we sort out our whole phone, and you can call in, but generally speaking, sometimes if a couple people want to call, technically speaking, through IT speak, it's supposed to work well. It doesn't always work well. So I may have to, in lieu of the folks that are present, if I have to turn it off, it's not a personal issue. And Peg, I just want you to be aware, if somehow you get cut off, it's only because things are going crazy at this end.
No problem.
We all love hearing your voice, so that's not the issue.
Oh, yeah, right.
So anyway, I just wanted to make that clear up front because we have the new folks, and it's available, but sometimes it doesn't work as well as we want. All right, somebody have a motion to approve the minutes from December 12th?
So moved.
Second. Moved. Second, Mr. Myers. All in favor? Aye. Carries. All right, we will start with courtesy of the floor. Let me just say it to the folks. We don't have anyone signed up, but if anyone would like to address County Council, you may come to the podium. You have 5 minutes to speak. And would you please give your name and where you're from, and I will set the timer. There you go.
Good evening. My name is Eric Laux. I'm from Lebanon, Pennsylvania, but I'm a senior at Lafayette. I come before you tonight regarding Executive Order 13888, which was recently issued by President Trump and requires state and local governments to provide explicit written consent for refugee resettlement to continue in their communities. And a lack of such consent will prohibit new families from being resettled into those areas. Governor Wolf has already consented on behalf of Pennsylvania, and based on guidelines released by the Bureau of Population, Refugees, and Migration, we need the county council to consent on behalf of Northampton County. I have some information regarding this.
I did get
Certainly.
an email, by the way. I just was not able to respond yet. Do you have enough for?
Let me pass them out for you. You talk.
There are over 70 million people forcibly displaced worldwide as of the end of 2018, of which over 25 million are refugees. For many refugees, resettlement to a country such as the United States is an option that can provide long-term legal and physical protection, as well as access to civil, political, economic, social, and cultural rights that they might not have otherwise. Since the passing of the Refugee Act of 1980, the United States has been a world leader in refugee resettlement, accepting over 3 million people in the last 40 years. This history extends into Northampton County as well. Following the fall of Saigon in the spring of 1975, tens of thousands of Vietnamese were evacuated to the United States, some of whom ended up here in Northampton County and were sponsored by local churches. Since then, dozens of churches and other religious organizations have sponsored families across the country, from Christ Lutheran Church in Hellertown to Salem UCC in Bath to Cornerstone Church in Easton. These sponsorships have helped build bridges between the churches, the people sponsoring, the people being resettled, and the community at large. I'm here representing a student group at Lafayette College called Refugee Action. We got started in the spring of 2017, and we work with Bethany Christian Services in Allentown to sponsor and host families here in Easton. We're currently working with our third family who arrived in November, and we plan on continuing to provide these services to families in the future. Despite common concerns about extreme vetting, refugees are subject to the highest level of security checks of any traveler to the United States, going through several background checks, health screenings, and interviews from the Department of Homeland Security, the Department of State, the Department of Defense, and the United Nations. Additionally, a 2017 study from the Department of Health and Human Services found that at the national level, refugees contributed a net positive of $63 billion to the U.S. economy over a 10-year period. Refugee resettlement in our county has served to expand, enrich, and strengthen our community for many decades, and I ask that you allow for it to continue by signing a letter of consent to be sent to the Secretary of State on the behalf of Northampton County. We have distributed a petition within the last 24 hours and have gathered over 550 signatures from people around the county. Included in that packet is a sample of the letter of consent that would need to be provided on official county letterhead. And we ask that you sign on behalf of Northampton County so that resettlement may continue in the future here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, we're not.
Well, I mean, if you have a question specifically.
I did have a specific
Are you
question.
finished?
Yes.
Thank you.
Do you have anybody else who is sponsoring this, or can you get us a copy of the signatures that you said you obtained or acquired?
I have a list of the signatures here.
And how many signatures did you get?
I printed this out about an hour ago, and it had 505. Since then, it's gone up to over 550.
That's great. So that was my question. I'll talk to you later, okay? Mm-hmm. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I saw what you did, and we're going to have to research this, and I'll talk to the solicitor because I believe this is all based on an executive decision that Mr. Trump made, or President Trump.
That's correct.
And that's not really established law, and I don't know if we're going to necessarily, as a county, usually it's a municipality that sponsors, and as a county, we really don't tell municipalities what they can and can't do. So we'll look into it, though.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you, is there anyone else who would like to address? Oh, would you spell your last name for her?
Laucks.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address County Council during courtesy of the floor?
I didn't see the.
Seeing no one, we're going to move on
I didn't see the.
to the County Executive Report. Mr. McClure, do you have a report?
I do, sir.
Um,
When you hear that McClure is continuing to take Northampton County to the dogs, you can tell them that that's true. We have Boomer, our bomb-sniffing dog. We have Danny, our drug-sniffing dog. And I am very pleased to inform County Council tonight that the Court of Common Pleas, Judge Barada specifically, who oversees the juvenile court, has agreed, based on Sue Wondolowski, who's done an excellent job on this. She should be here to hear me say that. An excellent job on this. The courts have agreed to allow the therapy dogs to attend court sessions with the kids in a juvenile justice system. This is a huge leap forward for the juvenile justice system, in that any of you who have ever participated in a court proceeding know how stressful they are. And imagine how stressful they are for children who have been taken out of their homes, who are accused of committing a crime. This is just a tremendous advancement, and I would really like to thank Judge Barada and the courts, Judge Corey, for working with us in this regard and being forward-thinking. It's just one more way that Northampton County and its human services are showing that there's dignity and humanity in all folks, and despite where they find themselves at a particular time. So I am really proud of that. Teledoc. From dogs to Teledoc. I have some really good news, County Council, about our utilization of Teledoc. We have saved $517 per episode, which an episode is a call to Teledoc. Over the life of Teledoc, we have saved $565,598 in health claims. Having Teledoc has saved us more than $500,000 off of our health claims. That is huge news. Teledoc continues to grow, and we are very fortunate that we have this program. Since being elected county executive, one of the things, and Ms. Kelly's here, and she's been working with me very closely on this and doing an excellent job, is minority outreach. It was clear to me from the eye test when I walked through the door, and I had been on where you're sitting for many years, but I didn't have as close-up a view that we did not have enough people of color working in Northampton County. And so we reached out. Ms. Kelly reached out to Ms. Lee, the president of the NAACP in Bethlehem. She reached out to Mr. Wheeler, president of the NAACP in Easton, and we started that ball rolling. And recently, Ms. Kelly brought to me a contract that we have entered into with Diversity Jobs, which is a diversity network. And what they help us do is they are an unlimited U.S.-based job distribution net, where they go out and they partner with veteransjobs.net, AfricanAmericanHires.com, AsianHires.com, WeHireWomen.com, AllHispanicJobs.com, Latino.jobs.org, DisabilityJobs.net, and AllLGBTJobs.com. We continue to step up our game in terms of diversifying our workforce. Obviously, we want qualified folks, and we'll only hire qualified folks, but we're going out there and we're looking to diversify our workforce. And I wanted to let council know that. The Bethlehem TIF is expiring. The Bethlehem TIF is expiring.
TIF
Yep.
standing for?
For the brownfield.
No, the TIF.
Oh, tax increment funding, I believe.
I'm sure
Financing, right.
We're going to do a little of that in the beginning of the year.
So, Mr. Barron wants me to report to you that this financing worked for economic development to the tune of about $1 million. Is that correct, Steve? About 979 of economic development based on, in part, what this council has historically done. That is really good news for the city of Bethlehem, the school district, and the county of Northampton. Excellent news. Additionally, we expect about $1 million a year to be generated in new revenue with the expiration of the TIF. That is also good news as we seek to move forward to do the things that we need to do. So I wanted to let you know that. See if I have anything else. I was Act 77, the new voting law. I was on the phone today with the governor's team, and they informed me that the Department of State tomorrow will issue guidelines for the implementation of Act 77. And as you know, we've had some interest in voting in Northampton County recently. And, you know, I want everyone to know that every day we are focused like a laser beam and making sure no one's interested in our voting ever again. But with Act 77 and my call in the governor's office today, they talked a lot about no excuse absentee ballots. That's a big deal. We essentially have vote by mail now in Pennsylvania. We essentially have vote by mail now in Pennsylvania. And that's something we should talk with everybody about everywhere we go. And so the guidelines for all of the implementation of Act 77 are coming out tomorrow. We also discussed items of interest that I think you'll want me to tell you about. The Commonwealth will go, the board meeting will take place this month for the borrowing of $90 million to reimburse the counties for the purchase of voting equipment. They think that it will take another probably month and a half to go out to market to get the $90 million, and then each county will be reimbursed up to 60% of the money they have spent on their elections equipment. Now, thanks to Councilwoman Vargo Hefner, who buttonholed at then acting secretary, now Secretary Bookvar, we included additional equipment in our application for reimbursement. Poll books, for example, which we all think and know we need. And let me just back up a little bit and talk about poll books, the electronic poll books that they've been using in Lehigh County for 7 years and they really like. We need those. And we don't just need those because they'll help us cut down on the lines. There are going to be long lines in November of 2020 because there are always long lines in presidential elections. But we can cut down a little bit on that with electronic poll books. Interestingly, because of the new registration deadlines, our printer of the sign-in book does not believe they're going to be able to print our sign-in books. So the Elections Commission, I believe, is going to be told in the very near future that we have to have e-poll books because our printer's not going to print the sign-in books anymore because the deadlines are going to be too tight. So that's part of our understanding. But back to, and thank you, Ms. Vargo Hefner, for telling me that. We did that. We added poll books. We also added in that application another 100 machines so that if we have to go out and do that, there'll be, hopefully our 60% will be the entire picture that we gave them as opposed to what we've just outlaid now. The governor's office also told me today they're getting extra HAVA money from the federal government, which is going to make its way down to the county level. So we'll have even more money from the feds to conduct our election. So I wanted to get, we should probably be seeing our money sometime April, May. Let's check my list to see if I have anything else. And I don't believe I do. Do you have any questions for me?
Yes, sir. The e-books, will we have them for the primary?
Good question. Can I get back to you on that?
Oh, yes. And in line with that, I know you were talking, I know council members have spoken to me about what they'd like to see. And we were, as you're right, we had a lot of discussions in the past year about voting, about leading up to the primary, what we'd like the company to come do. But I know you were putting together a plan, the administration was putting together a detailed plan. Do you have any time frame on when you're going to make that plan public?
Well, I can give you pieces of it now. Based on your suggestion during the oversight process with respect to the election of doing a letter to each voter, each voting household, we have done that letter. We're preparing to get it out now. We'll share a copy with council so you can distribute it as widely as you see fit. But it's going to every household. Amy Cozy has drafted that letter. Now we just need to get it out. She did a tremendous job with that.
Would that include information on the mail-in?
Yes. So it's a two-sided letter. On the one side is Act 77 and all the new no excuse absentee ballot. You can get up on a permanent absentee ballot list now. And we also have now walk-in voting. So, I mean, there's just
emergency voting in hospitals and after 5 o'clock.
just walk-in voting. Yeah,
all sorts of.
so it's going to be very interesting. It'll be interesting to see what the Department of State guides us about tomorrow. But yes, we're doing that. So on the one side, we have the new laws, and on the other, we have our Keystone, our XL, and we have blocks instructing you how to vote with that, and we're going to ask people to bring it with them to the polls.
Okay. And then beyond that, you have probably are discussing steps leading up to the primary to have them come back.
Well, there's a lot. There's a great deal of discussion going on internally right now.
Okay.
What I have to tell you is as you know, I think you were at the Elections Commission meeting, Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, but not everybody was.
I was there.
Acting Registrar Amy Hess has decided to go back to her deputy position. That was her choice. Certainly, Amy earned being the registrar permanently, but she doesn't want the job. So we had to post the job. The job has been posted. I believe it came down today. So we have to go through all the career service processes before we get to who the next registrar is going to be. And what I would like to do is let them, once they take the job, let them figure out exactly what it is we're going to be doing going forward. I'm not an elections expert.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, I think that one of the things was we had discussed, a few people came to me about it, having the folks come in from the machine, the company, and when the ballot is ready, or at least have a similar mock ballot on the machines to show us what they'd look like.
I don't want to go through all of the ideas that are being bandied about in fear that some of them may not happen for various reasons, but I know the mock election is something that the current elections folks are really excited about.
Okay.
So I'm
just curious.
They might. So I think you might be hearing about that in the future. But I don't want to lock. I don't want to lock a new registrar into a person who's going to have to implement Act 77, which has radically changed the way we vote in Pennsylvania, into particular presentations, exhibitions, and mock elections before they get the job.
Right. And you know,
we have to get the petition. We have to get
whatever
petition.
we do, we know that there's this cloud that you and I both know that we're going to have as we move forward. And I was just curious. I know you do have to bring in a new person. I was at the meeting, and we both know that even though the folks that voted on it, then they said they're not happy. But that, you know, now we have new people.
That was deeply disappointing because two of them provided the majority to purchase the machine. You know, so that was kind of disappointing. And
well, and I think there were some unrealistic expectations given to this council and what we can do within the next 2.5 months.
Well, no, it would be. Listen, it would be. Let me say this differently. It's incumbent upon any critics of the current system to come forward and tell us how any idea they have is less risky than what we currently have in place, and how they won't be wasting $3 or $4 million of taxpayer money. Those critics will have to come forward and tell you that, and I don't think they can.
Yeah, and that's why I'm bringing this up now. As you know, to me, we are on the path we're on through the primary.
Right.
And we want to make sure everything goes as smoothly as possible. And I agree with you, the idea of, well, what ifs, we're going to work to make the primary successful, and the what ifs can wait until after the primary, as far as I'm concerned. Ms. Hefner, you had your hand up.
Just back to the
Recognized.
purchase items that you ordered. Did you also include the high-speed scanner, or those, what you mentioned here is not limited to the items that you gave her?
I can't remember if Ms. Cozy did our application, and she did a great job, and she had already had it done, and then based on your leadership, she tweaked it further.
Okay.
I don't.
That may be on there
I'll have her
already.
answer that question for you because I don't know the answer.
Thank you.
Does anyone else have a question for the county executive? Or thank you, Mr.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Then do you have a cough drop? Do you need one? I have extras because now I have a sore throat. Do you need a
I
cough drop?
would love a cough drop. Thank you
Here,
so
pass
much.
this down to her.
Sorry, everybody.
I'm not going to blame you, but since talking to you on Monday, I now have a sore throat.
Look at that. I got a fish for it. No one wants to touch me.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Now we're going to go to old business. What I have on the agenda is the public hearing on the ordinance entitled An Ordinance of the County Council of Northampton County authorizing the purchase of 150 South Union Street, Easton, Pennsylvania from Sunblast Holdings, LLC. This was introduced by Messrs. McGee and Lott at our December 5th meeting. Are there any questions or comments from the public on this specific ordinance? Seeing none, I'll open it up to discussions and/or questions to council. And I just ask you, please yell if I don't see you, but ask to be recognized if you have any. Yes, Mr. Myers.
This is the building at Union Street, the one that we have the hole in the roof that's pretty much condemned.
Yes, sir.
Just a half of it that we own.
Just a half. Okay.
Yes, sir. Are there any other comments or discussion anyone wants to have on this? Mr. Lott, I'm getting your.
Yeah, buying this piece of property, we've owned this property for many administrations, I believe. Long time ago, they bought this property with the idea, I gotta believe, the reason they bought this property was to buy the property next to it, so that they can use it for parking for a prison. We certainly do need parking here in the daytime. I've come here many times in the daytime, and for me, it's fine. I can use exercise, but, for some people that are older, walking from the bottom of the hill up here. So anytime we can get parking a little closer to this facility's good. We kind of got jammed up because our half of this building is a mess. And it's an embarrassment that this county owned this building and let it depreciate. And this is not this administration or this group. It's been going on for several years. But it's time we make a move, and this is the right move. We can do a lot with that parking lot. And there's another piece of land sale that may go up for sale close by, adjacent to this property, I understand. So that would really make a nice thing. My suggestion would be that we buy this. If we do construction, sooner or later, that parking deck is going to be maybe not my time here, but sooner or later that parking deck is going to have to be addressed. Sooner or later, the prison's going to have to be addressed. Hopefully we can build a smaller prison because we got this all figured out and we got people not coming back to prison all the time. But all that being said, we are going to have construction projects, and we will need the land to lay down to make this transition happen because we don't have extra room here to have lay down for construction. Another thing, if we use it currently as a parking garage, I would just make a suggestion to maybe the administration that I sit on liaison to the prison board. I was so impressed with how many volunteers come in and work with our prisoners in our jail. And that's our best opportunity, or at least helps us get these people out, train them for jobs. We have workforce investment. We have volunteers trying to get these people to come out and not return. So when I went to the meeting, one thing we had a banquet to honor these people once a year. What I saw was, unfortunate, that most of the people are pretty old that are volunteers, and what it is what it is. But it would be nice if we could lay a parking spot or two out. If we do buy this and we do make a lot out of it, it'd be nice to give the volunteers a spot there. Another thing we could use this land for, I come down here in the day and the guards are in that prison, take a hike through it. It's not the nicest place to hang out and work, so it's nice to get outside. Some of them smoke, some of them just go out for air. They're sitting on the parking deck. If we could do a little something with shade for the guards to go out and actually catch some fresh air and relax a little. I'm not talking about a major structure, but we could do maybe a bench or something for them instead of sitting on the curb. I think there's a lot of good reasons to buy this property, and I think the council's before us, and I don't know how long we've owned this, but I understand quite some time. So apparently councils in the past thought it was a good idea too. So that's my sales pitch. I'm definitely going to be voting to buy this. I think now's the time. I think, it's unfortunately going to beat this part-time developer to it, but it is what it is. It's not a bad price. If we would have condemned it, we'd probably be at the same spot anyway. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Are there any other comments?
I
Ms.
just want to ask a
Zirinsky.
question. It says in the third paragraph down that Northampton County would incur expenses in excess of $200,000 to repair the adjoining half of the property. So this doesn't suggest that we're ever going to make those repairs. Is the intention that we are going to knock the whole thing down and make a parking lot out of it?
I would address that to county executive.
There are many important public purposes that we could use this property for.
Has one already been chosen?
No.
Because it seems like,
But we think based on the information that we have, that rehabilitation of the half we currently own is not fiscally responsible.
no, $200,000 to improve that roof? I've been in that.
That's the minimum.
You would have to
It's
mitigate
more like a
all
half
the
a million.
black mold that's inside that building too, which is,
It's not fiscally responsible to continue to maintain it as a home.
so that decision hasn't necessarily been made, whether we would keep that building, do those repairs. That's just listed here to say that that's the cost that it would be.
No, that's correct. But
Just
the
clarifying
important
that.
public purpose that we think that we've identified in Public Works, who's charged with this, is that to use it as a parking lot.
Got it.
And I would say, if I may, Mr. Cusick, Peg, and certainly Mr. McClure probably would know, I was not on council. I was at there. I think this was part of Mr. Reedman's, Executive Reedman, who wanted to acquire properties around the county courthouse for
Right.
parking and other possible uses. Am I correct
That
on that?
predates both Mr. Cusick and myself.
Yeah, I think it was near the end of his second term, but his goal was, I think, even the townhouses, all various for parking and possible a prison, as mentioned. So I think at the very least, I believe it goes back well over 10 years.
Oh, much more than that.
Yeah, so anyway,
Closer
Mr.
to
Lott.
20 now.
Yeah,
I'm
just
sorry.
with that in mind, would it be possible that we get a list of the properties we own? So
Yes.
10 years from now, I don't realize I
Yes,
sat on
it's-
council
it's-
with the property
It's
we
not
didn't know.
extensive. We've already done it.
Well, can we?
Yeah, we've already done it, haven't
Well,
we?
I think,
We have it, and we've unlocked the system because we just generated the bills.
Okay.
I can get that for you relatively.
well, and Mr. Barron, I just want to say, a couple council people have asked for it over the last few months, so if you could get that to them, I mean, they have been patient.
I'll get it for you.
It was two different council members that asked.
Not only that, just make
Smart.
sure, it should be available for the capital project operation, so whoever chairs that will know, so we don't get blindsided anymore.
Yeah, it's good. You're going to find we don't own much.
2 points, will that also include things in the repository? All right, can we get a list of that, too, like other property? Because again, it's hard when we get blindsided. We don't have to make it public, it would just be informational.
Do you want, I can tell you there are four.
Do you want to come up next to
There
your
are
boss?
4 properties in the repository that have buildings on them. All other properties in the repository, and there are hundreds in the repository, are just vacant pieces of land, little parcels that people have never claimed.
We'll give you the list
we'll
of them.
give you the
but
list,
it's important to understand we don't own them.
Right.
No, but I think it would be helpful to have that distinction so that when somebody comes up and told us that Steve Barron was going to take care of it, that we know it's in the repository and that he didn't do a side deal. Thank
You
you.
are never going to live.
Let the record
But
show that
that
that was
wasn't-
not Mr. Heckman that brought that up this time in the new year.
But I was going to ask a question, and I totally forgot about it. We never did prove or disprove that there was a resident in this building, correct?
We think somebody was living there.
Okay. And have they agreed to the terms of this? Or will, if we do this, will they then go, no, we want more?
No, yes. The answer is yes, they've agreed to the terms.
Okay.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments? Thank you, Mr. Executive.
Thank you, sir.
Seeing none, let's call for the vote.
Mr. McGee,
Yes.
Mr. Lott,
Yes.
Mr. Giovanni,
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Myers,
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mr. Kuzic,
No.
Mrs. Ferraro.
No,
The ordinance is adopted by a vote of 7-2.
Thank you. All right, now, that is the only old business I have. Is there any other old business that council wishes to discuss at this juncture? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to new business. And the new business we have is a discussion regarding state food purchase program funding. And this is on because I want to allow Ms. Zirinsky to, the resolution is here, but the resolution is not on the agenda. But this gives her an opportunity to at least discuss and also to have a discussion regarding this new council members in terms of our procedures, what we try to do in respect to each other in terms of getting things to the clerk in a timely fashion. And I think that it's important that we all understand that as a group. This is, I mean, the executive, people work for the executive. If he changes his mind on a dime, I guarantee you his directors also change their mind on a dime. They work for him. And that's not Mr. McClure, that's any executive from the beginning. With us, it's a little different. I mean, I may be head parliamentarian, but you're all elected officials. You all have the same authority. So it'll work if we have to sort of have this mutual respect. And I'm just saying that, and that's not pointing a finger, but it is just saying to the new folks, we want to try, and that's why you'll hear Ms. Zembo may say, can you get this to me by such and such? And this president approves it. Well, if I'm not president, the next president would approve it. So it's not me making it happen. It's just so we can keep the ball rolling in an effective way, hopefully. So I'm going to turn it over to you now because I know this is an issue is important to you.
Right. So this is an issue that's important because I attended a County Commissioners Association of Pennsylvania, otherwise known as CCAP, meeting in November that talked about food insecurity in Pennsylvania. One of the things that really moved me was the presentation done by Feeding America. And one of the issues was that they have to keep food banks open longer now, after 5 o'clock, so that working families can come in and supplement their low-income wages with food from the pantries. So I had a long conversation with Chris Cassidy, the Associate Executive Director for Community Services Administration at Feeding America in Bethlehem. And he indicated some of the problems that they're having right now. In 2006, 2007, the budget for the Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, which is a state-funded program that basically provides cash grants for counties to purchase and distribute food to low-income individuals and supplement the efforts of food pantries, soup kitchens, food banks, funding feeding programs, shelters, and homeless. He said that the SNAP program in 2006, their budget was $18.75 million. In 2019, that Supplemental Nutritional Food Assistance Program was budgeted at $18.18 million. Now, we all know the cost of food and the cost to transport that food and the cost to process that food has gone up, yet the budget has gone down and the needs have grown in our community. Many of us have seen the United Way, what was it called? Study that was just recently done identifying the poverty levels, and then also a new class, the ALICE folks, the people who are the low income but not quite meeting the standard of the poverty level. These are the people who are going to the food banks at 5 o'clock to get food. So to me, his ask was that this budget be restored to meet the needs, the growing needs of counties everywhere across the Pennsylvania, and specifically in our county. Since that food budget is only $18.18 million in 2019, and in 2006, it was even more. He perceives that that budget, with inflation and all the other costs, should be at $36 million. He is asking that the counties, that our county specifically, and Feeding America is a larger organization across Pennsylvania and across country, and they will be asking, other counties will be asking Governor Wolf for the same ask, and that is for $24 million to fund this program midway between where it should be and where it's at now. So my resolution that I wanted to put forward was in support of this letter that he would like to send Governor Wolf. I realize that because I have had bronchitis for a week now, that I'm a little behind the 8 ball, and Chris Cassidy could not be here today, but I will ask him to be at our next meeting so that he could also pitch you and tell you how important this is to working families, to the homeless people, and to the people who use the food banks in our county and other counties across the state.
All right, is there any, this isn't a resolution on the table now, but this was an opportunity also to talk about our procedure in resolution. Now, resolution is not law. I think that's important to know. It's a resolve of council. For example, we give the executive resolutions. He could throw it away. I wouldn't recommend it. Most executives honor our resolutions, and I have to say that. Ordinances are our laws. And you can have a resolution for anything. I mean, I said we love dogs, we love cats, so on and so forth. The only thing I would say is with a resolution, when you can send a letter, and as a councilman, you can send a letter any way you want. When you ask all of council to join in with you, you are basically then agreeing with everything that's in that resolution. Intended consequences, unintended consequences, and that's fine, but just so you're aware of what it is. And Ms. Zirinsky knows, because we've spoken about this, that I understand that things come up and we get things at the last minute often, and you've heard me complain about that, especially when it comes from outside, because we're given things, you have to pass this or we won't get the money. We have to do, and sometimes I think it's been laying on somebody's desk and they forgot to get it to us. Sometimes it maybe they don't want us to get that into it and read it. Who knows? And when you get to my point in life, things can get a little jaded when it comes to government's actions. But the thing is, I thought the resolution, you had a resolution on the table and you pulled it. And I understand that. But then you replaced it.
I didn't get a chance to talk to everybody individually. But I had submitted this resolution and it was drawn up before Christmas. So I just want to let you know, but you didn't get it. I get it. It's fine, and we need to follow a certain process. And this is a good learning opportunity for the new members of council to understand the process and procedure. And granted, things, you know, sometimes you drop the ball during Christmas time, you know. Unexpected visitors come from out of state, sucking up your time, right? You know?
It happens.
Everybody in your household gets sick, then you get it. We all understand. And it's not time sensitive, and that's why I said, you know what, we don't have to vote on it today. And I would rather have everybody mull this over, feel comfortable about it, and have Chris Cassidy come here and talk to you about it himself. Obviously, you can see how passionate I am about this, because I think, you know, working families, low-income families, homeless people, I think it's our duty to take care of people who don't have. And we can't do more with less. And I think if the state understands their responsibility to the counties, that they should understand that we need more to do more.
Okay. I understand where you're coming from and what you want to do. Mr. Locke, go ahead.
Yeah, just kind of on Mr. Heckman's, you know, most people on this board work full time. So, you know, anything the administration can, I mean, we got a thing the other day, 100-page RFP. You know, I like to educate myself on it. I mean, there's a lot to do with this job if you really want to understand it. And so anything we can get earlier, I think I'm one of the few guys that have probably time to do it because I'm retired. But most people here work. And so any resolutions we can get earlier and educate each other, and anything from the administration certainly helps the working people. Now back to this subject, Tara, you probably may not know this answer, but I do know some of the food kitchens, actually, the food banks actually had a surplus. There was a glutton of food. It's a temporary one because of the trade wars. I believe it's a temporary one because of my understanding from the food kitchens, they were getting more food than they knew what to do with there for a little bit. I'd imagine that's probably ended. Do you know anything about that? Because of the trade wars, they were dumping it in the food, buying, the government, federal government was buying it and dumping it?
I don't know if that is still the case. I would say that that's a question for Chris.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
But I wouldn't say that that's status quo. You also have something coming from the executive administration diminishing the supplemental nutritional assistance program. So if you don't think that people are going to start to need more food, you're wrong. You know, and I think it's a responsibility for us to take care of people in our county and across Pennsylvania, and especially what some people have said, you know, there's church groups who supplement this, we crowdfund for this, and things like that. And that's great. So you could pick and choose where things go. But when the money comes from the state, it's more equitably distributed. I mean, these are grants, and yeah, you have to apply for those grants, but it's not picking and choosing who gets that money. It means that it's distributed more equitably. And that's one of the things that we need to be mindful of. That means that low-income families who are black and brown also get this funding. And that's what equitable distribution is. It's not me deciding that my church group is going to fund the food bank in our pantry. It's everybody gets this. And that's what I think more of what this program does, and why I think it's important that the state funds it and they start funding it where it should be funded.
Did you ever have
Sure.
that?
I'm glad that we now have time to review this, but it raises a lot of questions. Is this the only group that gets funding? Are there other groups that get funding? Like, I think we need some time to educate ourselves on the process. That being said, I want to make very clear that what I'm about to say does not mean that I don't stand for food or feeding the hungry or whatever, but I'm concerned about the process. We do need time to review resolutions, and I'm very concerned that we have a lot of business to do in this county, and that I would rather attack or approach these things from a county perspective. I'd like to know what we in this county are doing about this issue before we go signing on for a state program. And then when I'm aware and I know exactly what the funding streams and how it impacts our county directly, then I would be more amenable to just signing yes on things. And again, we're elected officials to do county work, county government work, and there's a lot we have to do. And so I'd like to focus on that and not always be writing letters to the governor and the state. Given the election issue, we had to, and we still have to. But I'd like to know what we're doing here at home before we go writing letters in support of the government. And there's more questions. I don't know why the budget was cut. Was the money taken and put somewhere else? Like, I think there's a lot of questions to be answered before I would agree to say yes to something like this.
Fine, and I would welcome you sending me those questions so I could distribute them to Chris, and then hopefully he will be here next time to answer those. And I've asked him to be here next time.
But it would also be helpful to hear that at either your committee with environment or my committee with human services, because if human services is a piece of this, then I'd like to know what we're doing about it. And then that's where it becomes more germane.
No, and I think one of the concerns could be, and this is important going forward, and you know, because you've been approached by numerous groups, there are many advocacy groups out there, numerous, and they want you to sign on often to say support. And sometimes, despite the good intentions, there are unintended consequences, or like it was mentioned about how they're going to do it, the $24 million, is that money that went somewhere else that's still there that can be appropriated? Are we suggesting that there somehow be a raise in taxes? Are the state senators, have they said anything yet? Or are we just starting at this level to advocate for them? Have other local communities, as Lehigh County? So I think what happens is with some of these, when it goes beyond the letter to a resolution, and you went, I think with these kind of resolutions, it's really difficult if you get a 5-4 vote. It's like, well, I don't even know exactly what that means, what the council meant by that.
Sure.
So I think that when we sort of get into these areas where it can be a little more tricky because we don't know as much. I mean, we can, locally here, we can say, Mr. Barron, for example, he's the Norco money man. If we have a question about funding, we go, hey, Mr. Barron, where'd that come from? Why isn't it showing up here? And Mr. Cusick avails himself of those questions all the time. So the thing is, you know, and that's the issue, and that can be a problem. So that's why I think with some of these particularly, you really need the leeway, the lead time.
Right.
So, and so.
No, that's why I opened it up for
Okay.
discussion, so that I could
Good.
hear these questions, so I can get them to Chris.
Mr. McGee.
The gentleman you met at CCAP.
Yes.
His name's Chris.
Chris Cassidy.
Did he have other counties that signed on to this? Do you know?
That I don't know, but
Okay.
I know he's trying to, he is from Feed America in Bethlehem.
Sure.
There are other organizations across Pennsylvania, I don't know what they are specifically, that also could get this grant and that are also lobbying for this money as well. Maybe he will have more
Was
information
he
on
at
that.
CCAP?
Yes, I personally talked to him.
All right.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Myers?
Listening to this resolution and the newness of it, and let me just give you a little history here. I come from a family of 15, so I knew what it was like when to be young and to be hungry and not knowing if you're going to eat the next day or not. With that being said, parents raised me as the times got better for them. My father organized an organization that reached out to the people in this community. And for many years, Thanksgiving and Christmas, he told us to raise money to feed people. Now, it's great that you're bringing this resolution forward, but I have to echo some of what Mr. Hefner said. We need to take care of what the hell we got going on here in this county. It's awfully important because there's a lot of people here that are hungry, and they're not just black and brown. Let me explain that to you very crystal clear. We fed more white families than we fed black families in the 90s, in the 80s, and it's kind of making me well up a little bit because I'm thinking about what my father did and how that organization helped people. Not only did we feed people, we raised money to bury people, to put water tanks in their houses, to put oil in. We have poverty here. And one thing Dr. King said years ago was, poverty is poverty. Poverty doesn't know race. Poverty only knows hunger. I can remember some of the meals my mother would make. She lived 94 years and raised 15 strong children. So I'm glad we're not tabling this, but we're letting this thing go. Let's investigate what we got locally before we sign on to something we want to do statewide. And I respect
But you
everything.
understand that
I
this is the
understand what
source
you're
money
saying. I understand,
funds
yeah.
the counties,
Right.
It's the
sort.
source money that funds the county programs.
Yes, but you know what? There's a lot of churches that feed a lot of people too. So it's one thing the government can do one thing for us. But one thing that's beautiful about this county and this valley is we take care of our own. So let's make sure we take care of our own before we go anywhere else. I'm not saying no to what you're saying. What I'm saying is open up your ears and listen to what everybody else has got to say, because we got a lot of people out there hurting too. And with that said, I thank you.
Okay. Mr. Executive, did you have a comment?
Very quickly, without addressing the resolution, I haven't even seen it, so I have no comment about the resolution, whatever. I think it's overdue for us to come forward and outline for council so that we all understand exactly how much money we put into the social service organizations in the Lehigh Valley, in Northampton County specifically. There probably isn't a food bank we don't touch. And, if between Human Services and Department of Community and Economic Development, we can probably paint you a pretty accurate picture of the tremendous amount of support, financial support, the county provides to social service agencies, including food banks. And we'd be very happy to do that for you. And to the extent that we don't have the particular information from CACLV, for instance, because we put a lot of money in the CACLV. And, CACLV does many different good things, including feed people. And they can come in, and they'd run in here to tell you the funding they give to various social service organizations, including food banks. And I think it's time to do that historically. Historically, county governments haven't really talked about it. It's almost been an open secret. And I think we all appreciate, or most of us anyway, appreciate that it should be in the light. Because we're doing really good work out there. And we're doing really good work through these social service agencies. So I think we'll have a committee meeting or a joint committee meeting, and we'll give you all that information so that we can talk about that.
Thank you, Mr. Executive. And
Because you're doing that. You're doing that right now.
For you.
You, all of us.
Or for both of you, which committee do you think would be the most appropriate to house this? Or do you think it would be a joint committee situation?
I have no opinion on that matter.
I'd say Human Services, just in the sense that the executive brought up a point, and I think it's important, and over the years it's happened more and more. There's the core services that you heard me use the term before, but then there are services, and we used to have a few councilmen who would say, just tell me the core services and let's dump the money for the others. Well, some of those other services help keep the price of the core services down. So, and it was tough to explain that sometimes. It was like training wheels so that we don't fall over totally. So sometimes you invest a few extra dollars so that it doesn't get to a point where all of a sudden you're placing a child at X amount a day. But he's correct. I mean, there have been times, and I think it's increased, where we reach out more as a county government into the community through the, whether it's the grants or the different groups that are out there, and it goes, not necessarily, we're not blowing trumpets or anything like that, but we do get involved and try and help them, and it would probably be healthy to have a discussion about that.
Or would it be appropriate to do it jointly with economic development, and that we could share the
It's a
time?
committee.
Because
You
I
can talk
don't
about it.
I don't deal with CLV, but I know that they do, and so they will have a better sense of the funding stream.
You know what, it doesn't matter because we all generally sit here anyway. We could, we could even have it as an agenda item one day on our.
It's probably long overdue to review our social
I agree.
services. Outside of human services, what we do in the outside.
I agree.
I think it's long overdue.
Mr. Kusick.
Based on that, I'd like to make a motion that we send this resolution to the Human Services Committee for further discussion.
Can I second that, if I'm the chair?
Do what you want.
Second it.
Robert's Rules is a guideline. I always tell Chris.
Well,
we're not
sometimes when
mandated
you're the
under
chair,
law
you're
to
not
follow
supposed to
it.
do that.
All right, there has been a motion to move this to the Human Services Committee. It's been seconded for further discussion. Is there any further discussion on that? It's not a motion to table, so I'll entertain discussion. Seeing none, let's call for a vote.
Mr. Kuzic.
Yes.
Ms. Fargo Hefner.
Yes.
Mr. Heckman.
Yes.
Mr. Lott.
Yes.
Mr. McGee.
Yes.
Mr. Myers.
Yes.
Ms. Zirinsky.
Yes.
Mrs. Ferraro.
yes,
Mr. Giovanni.
Yes.
Motion passes by a vote of 9-0.
All right, good. Then your individual has more time.
That's
You can
great.
arrange it and whatever supporting information he gets.
I'll talk to you later then.
Okay. I have nothing else as far as new business. Does anyone on council have any other new business that they want to discuss? Seeing none, let's go to council committee reports. Are there any council committee reports? Ms. Fargo.
I just held the Human Services Committee meeting before this meeting. We had a presentation from Early Intervention to discuss the Safe Plan of Care program that the county's sort of ahead of the curve on, but it's new to the whole state, so we're going to get an update later in the year on that. Discussed Graysdale, and Kevin Dolan is definitely slated to retire on February 21st, and a new replacement, Julie Bader, will be taking his place on the 24th. That's it.
Any other committee reports? Council liaison reports?
Industrial development yesterday was canceled.
Okay, thank you. Ms.
Farmland.
Zirinsky.
Farmland Preservation held a meeting. There are now 202 farms preserved. The 2020 list has been generated. There were 21 applicants. 19 of those properties will be ranked. There's some discussion because of the amount of money in the budget, whether or not we will actually have a second round of applications in April or May. Yes.
Good.
So the Farmland Preservation Board is really strong, and we're preserving land at a really strong clip. So I think that's a great thing.
Oh,
Is there
question?
a minimum on the acreage or the?
10.
There is a minimum on the acreage. I have to check and what that is. I don't know it off the top of my
Usually
head.
10 acres.
That's what I thought, 10, but I didn't want to misspeak.
If you find out it's different, if you let me know, I'll talk to you about it after the meeting.
Great.
Okay, and I just want to, is there any other liaison reports?
Yes. What?
Any other liaison reports? Seeing none, I just want to point out to fellow council members, thank you. I've talked to, I think, all of you about committees and liaisons, and I'm going to have Ms. Zembo put together a tentative new sheet without my chicken scratch all over it. And it'll be tentative, and then everybody take a look at it. And if there's an issue or a problem, because then I'll try and finalize it by the second meeting of the month, and I think that's January 23rd, if I'm not mistaken. And then everybody will know where we stand and what it's at. So if you see that tentative and you have concerns or issues, please get back to me. All right?
I forgot I had a committee report, an ad hoc.
That's okay. Go ahead. Ad hoc committee.
I apologize. So the ad hoc committee for industrial hemp met again. We have rescheduled our hemp symposium for January 21st at Northampton Community College. It will be held in College Center 220. 5 p.m. networking, 6 to 9 will be the program. All of our speakers have agreed to come back. So Steve Groff from Hemp Innovators, also known as Cover Crop Steve, will be one of our keynote speakers, and Judy Wicks from All Together Now Pennsylvania. She is the one that's spearheading the supply chain movement to understand every aspect of the supply chain, and she's organized across Pennsylvania, so that's going to be very interesting discussion. We also have Crystal Snyder from Penn State Agriculture, Eric Titus White from his farm up in East Stroudsburg, Ben Davies from Wild Fox Farms, and also Mark Neifert from Agape Farms. And then we also have a panel discussion of local farmers, and we have 5 permits. The permitting process has come out in Pennsylvania. And that permit now is $150. So that's really exciting news.
What's the date again? I'm sorry.
January 21st in College Center 220.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead, right ahead.
As a new kid on the block, what exactly are we doing with hemp and how do we get involved with it?
Industrial hemp is a product that can be used for fiber or seed. It is 0.3 THC. It is an emerging crop that was legalized to grow in Pennsylvania in 2018 through the Farm Bill. It is one of the crops that is basically, we're hoping that it's going to be the cash crop that it used to be 80 years ago before it was banned. In Kentucky, they're making millions of dollars. It's even replacing tobacco industries. This can make 25,000 different products. It could also replace plastic. It can make car parts. It can make textiles. It is going to be a source for manufacturing and jobs and economic development. So that's why I have taken the initiative to understand industrial hemp and try to bring it into the county and educate farmers and see how much, what we can do with it and bring that supply chain here to our empty warehouses and facilities in the Slate Belt.
You don't mind giving me any information on it? I appreciate it.
If anybody else wants one,
Thank
I
you.
have hundreds of these.
All right, thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, is there any other, anything else? Otherwise, I'm going to my council clerk's report.
Nothing.
Nothing? Council solicitor's report? Nothing. All right. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, all in favor? Aye. We're adjourned.
Thank you so much. I got more in my bag.
Oh, I want to do it back tomorrow. But wait, these kids I want to scribble their signature on the kids.
So this is what I wanted to give you.
Oh, okay. You okay? All right, this was good. You gotta have it, get it out, then you don't have people behind the scenes. No. No.